Today is Wednesday, January 14th, 2026, and here is the news that you can use. FedRAMP is moving quickly with a rulemaking playbook and new requests for comment that could change how authorizations get done. The GAO is warning that AI-enabled fraud is turning improper payments into a systems problem, not a one-off control failure. And on the platform side, both Google Cloud and AWS shipped updates that nudge enterprise AI from experiments into standardized, governable building blocks. First up, FedRAMP is signaling a more aggressive implementation posture for the FedRAMP Authorization Act. The program published a blog post that frames how the notice of proposed rulemaking process could translate legislation into specific program rules, and it pairs that framing with 6 new requests for comment. This is where feasibility gets tested because RFCs surface cost, timing, and operational friction before changes get locked into policy. If you own compliance, cloud strategy, or procurement support, assign an owner to read the RFCs and produce a one-page impact map for leadership. Related to that, FedRAMP also posted a dated update bundle on its homepage for January 13, 2026. In one line, it ties together the blog post, the 6 RFC drops, a new events page, and a link to the list of all selected 20X Phase 2 pilot participants. This matters because it's a tempo signal as much as it is a content drop, and tempo changes drive staffing and governance decisions. When the program starts packaging multiple changes into one rapid update cycle, teams that wait for quarterly refreshes get blindsided. Your move is to treat FedRAMP change tracking like a standing operating rhythm, with weekly review and a clear escalation path. Now let's talk about AI-enabled fraud and program integrity, because GAO is putting a spotlight on a risk surface that's expanding fast. In its latest work on improper payments and fraud, the GAO explicitly points to AI as a facilitator that can scale fraud tactics, including impersonation and synthetic identity patterns. The executive takeaway isn't to buy a single detector, because point tools won't keep up if the underlying controls and governance are weak. The takeaway is to strengthen identity assurance, verification, and analytics so you can adapt at the same pace as the adversary. If you're a CIO working with program leadership, align program integrity controls to enterprise identity and telemetry instead of treating them as an isolated domain. Quick pause for a practical reminder. The Exchange Daily is free, and subscribing is the easiest way to get it consistently without hunting for it. If you want the deeper, paid Monday briefing that turns the week's tech news into decisions, risks, and actions, subscribe to the Exchange Weekly. The link is go.metora, that's spelled metora.solutions/the Exchange Weekly. That's go.metora.solutions/the Exchange Weekly. And there's no need to add a .com. Turning to standards, today is also NIST's Cyber AI Workshop number 2, tied to the Cyber AI Profile Draft. Even if you aren't in the room, the existence of the workshop is the point, because NIST is actively shaping how cybersecurity outcomes map to AI systems and to AI-enabled security use cases. The draft profile is published as a preliminary document with a December 2025 cover date, and workshops like this are how draft ideas harden into expectations that show up in audits and procurement language. If you run GRC or platform engineering, use this window to map your current AI lifecycle to the draft outcomes, identify gaps, and submit feedback where the requirements would be costly or ambiguous. This is how you reduce future compliance debt while the rules are still being written. On the platform side, Google Cloud introduced a gRPC transport for Model Context Protocol. The upside is that a standard transport can reduce bespoke integration work and make it easier to plug agents into enterprise tools in a repeatable way. The risk is that interoperability increases the blast radius of weak governance, because it becomes easier for teams to connect more tools without consistent policy. If you own an AI platform, treat MCP as a policy surface and decide how authentication, authorization, and observability will work before adoption spreads. Build a short approved tool registry and require logging and least privilege access as a default pattern. AWS added a complementary piece with security considerations for cross-region inference in Amazon Bedrock. Cross-region inference can improve resilience and performance, but it also changes the data path, and that changes your threat model and your compliance posture. AWS frames the guidance around encryption, identity and access management, network boundaries, and auditability. The executive point is that data residency and access policy decisions have to be made before teams use cross-region patterns in production. If you're regulated, document what data can traverse regions, and require a formal exception process for anything that violates your baseline. Finally, a cyber operations note you can't ignore, because the January Patch Tuesday batch is big and the exploitation clock is already running. The SANS Internet Storm Center summary highlights a large set of fixes and flags at least one issue already being exploited, and the Qualys write-up underscores the challenge of prioritizing across a broad patch set with multiple critical items. The operational move is not panic patching, it's sequencing with intent and then validating your rollouts. Patch the most exposed identity and productivity surfaces first, verify with telemetry, and make sure rollback plans are ready for high-impact systems. This is where disciplined change management beats heroics. That's the exchange for today. Remember, inspect what you expect. If you are interested in how this newscast is created or want more information about how to be a part of it, contact podcasts@matorasolutions.com. That's podcasts with an S at matorasolutions.com.